In this video, we will explore graphs of inequalities. So our first question is, which inequality governs this graph? A few things we need to know. First of all, by looking at the inequalities and also by our graph, we can determine that the y-intercept is -1 and that our slope is -1/3 as we go down 1 and to the right 3 to get to our next point. So our inequality needs to be in the form of y equals -1/3 x minus 1. That's the representation of our line. However, if we note, all of these choices have the -1/3 x minus 1. The next point that we need to take a look at here is that the graph of our line is solid, and that will correspond to either a greater than or equal to or less than or equal to. So here we are now looking at either the first answer or the second answer. Notice the shading above the graph. Because the shading is above our line, we want the y to be greater than or equal to. So our correct choice in this case is the first question. Now we are asked to choose the graph of x is less than 46. You should recall from graphing linear equations that anytime you have an equation in the form of x equals a number, you are given a vertical line. This should immediately help you to rule out both answers on the left. We want all of the x values that are smaller than 46. So in looking at our two graphs on the right, we want shading to be to the left of that vertical pink line, which is the case for both of these. So now we're down to our symbol. Notice that our symbol is strictly less than. This is going to correspond to a dashed or dotted line, not a solid line. So our correct choice here is the graph in the bottom right. Which inequality governs this graph? So here again, we see a line that is going straight up and down through -25 on our x-axis. So we know that we need to be in the form of x equals -25. We have a dashed line, so that tells us we are strictly less than or greater than, and all of the values shaded are less than -25. So our correct answer is x is less than -25. Choose the graph of y is greater than -100x. Notice that your y-intercept does not exist here, which means that it is 0. This should rule out our top right option as it does not pass through the origin. Next, we know that our slope is -100, so we should be moving downward from left to right. This is going to rule out our bottom left equation, as that slope is 0. Notice now that you have y is greater than. So now that we are looking at the graph on the top left and the graph on the bottom right, we know that we should have a dashed line and be shaded above that dashed line, leading us to the correct choice of the option in the bottom right. Choose the graph of y is greater than or equal to -30. Here we know that we want to be shaded above the line, that we will have a solid line. So we're now looking at the top right graph or the bottom left graph. Remember, y equals is a horizontal line. And make sure that you're going through -30. The top right graph goes through +30. So our correct answer is the bottom left graph. And the last question we will take a look at today: which inequality governs this graph? So looking at this graph, it is a horizontal line. So we know that we have a y equals. We can immediately eliminate the top two question choices. Additionally, we have a dashed line with shading above that line, which indicates the symbol we are looking for here is greater than. So our correct choice is y is greater than 143.